Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's Ken Krager from Black Swan Financial Advisors. Looks like I maybe need to point my camera down a little bit again. Let's see. Okay, now you can see most of my head. Anyway, maybe I need to sit up straighter, which would probably help me anyway. Black Swan Financial Advisors. We especially work with families with family members who have special needs. Very complicated planning for multi-generational financial security. So please contact me so we can have a discussion. Anyway, all these videos are for educational purposes. Thank you for joining my podcast. My website is getting closer to being done, so that's really good. There's my YouTube channel, so hopefully you can join my YouTube channel, subscribe, and send me an email if you would like to get a hold of me or talk. So it is Thursday. Tomorrow is options expiration Friday. But a couple of topics that I wanted to talk about. The banking crisis still seems to be looming over us. I'm not sure that it's done. And commercial real estate is having issues. But the big thing today in the last week or two has been the government default, the debt ceiling default. Right? The government has had this battle over the debt ceiling. It frustrates the heck out of me because the reality is that even if the government doesn't get a debt ceiling raised and approved, it's not like the government is going to stop spending money while Congress irons things out and figures things out. Now, cuts will happen automatically. Things will get frozen, but the government is not going to stop paying Social Security, and they are going to pay their debt obligations to whoever their bondholders are or whatever. Now, if this continued on for months and months and months or a year or something, then yeah, we could be in big trouble. But you know, this did happen before. Actually, I remember quite a few years ago. Actually, I worked for the federal government back then, and they had this problem, and the government employees basically got furloughed. We were sent home and told not to work, and so we didn't get paid. Then, at that time, it lasted for a little while, and then Congress got their act together, and we're able to approve the debt ceiling and the budgets and all that, and we all got back pay. So, but it will cause pain for some people, especially people that are living paycheck to paycheck, or businesses that do work with the government. They're not going to be able to get paid. But I think both political parties are really just using this as an opportunity for political gain, and it really ticks me off a lot that both sides, all of our politicians, seem to create these crises. So if you look at it, President Biden, he's been in the government for like 50 years. I don't know how long, but a long time. And he's helped negotiate, when he was vice president, he helped negotiate a debt ceiling restructuring and a deal with the other party. And here we were back in February, March, April, May, and President Biden refused to talk to the Republicans. He said, I'm not even going to talk to you about the debt ceiling. And he waited. They waited until the last minute. And then all of a sudden they just, oh my gosh, it's a crisis. We're going to default on our credit rating is going to go down, and grandma's going to be thrown off a cliff, and nobody's going to get their Social Security payment, and all of a sudden, they created the crisis, both of them. And it's the border, the debt ceiling, whatever. They just refuse to deal with the problems because they can use them for their political rhetoric, and it's really frustrating. And actually, personally, if I had my choice, I think I'd fire every one of them and vote new people in. But it's really frustrating when people seem to play with other people's lives, because this is their livelihood. This is, people will be severely impacted for a short period of time. So anyway, it's a little frustrating. I wanted to share something with you a little bit. We'll go back to that chart in a second, but there's been a lot of talk about the Fed pivot. And, the market has been resilient. And, a lot of people have been expecting a more significant market crash. And I'm actually one of those people that think the market will go down some more. I think there's a lot of things going on in the market right now that is going to put, there's a lot of risk, and I think it's going to cause problems. But one of the interesting things that I found was some data about, well, what's been happening since 1929 when a rate hike cycle ends, what usually happens. And it's kind of interesting. The statistics show that on average, over the next 6 months after the Fed stops hiking rates, the return has actually been negative, but pretty flat, just a little bit negative. And 12 months later, it's gone up a whopping 1.8% over 12 months. What, inflation right now is around 5? So that's a negative return. But basically the market, historically, you don't see the market taking off after the Fed stops hiking rates. Then if you look at the 5 cycles between 1969 and 1989, when inflation spiked double digits, on average, again, 6 months, the market was down a little bit more, and 12 months later was barely up. So again, a sideways market. So I think everybody just kind of remembers, what happened after the 2008, 2009, and the market just kind of went straight up for quite a while. It actually went up for a little bit and then went down and then went back up in 2013. I'm going to show you that chart again in a second. But I think we forget that, as the market bottomed out in 2009 or 10 or around that time, it took more than a year or so, and it actually didn't take the stopping of raising interest rates. It took the lowering of interest rates. So be cautious. And I'm kind of waiting for the Fed to cut rates. I am in the market, but I'm hedging, and I'm using options to do that. So let's jump back to this chart. So this is a really interesting chart, and some people have been talking about this the last few days that I've heard on, the business channels and stuff. But if you look at a chart, this is over 2 years, the last 2 years. You can look here, this line, April 9th, 2021. So that was more than 2 years ago, and the market is exactly where it was 2 years ago. So you could have got this big gain right here. That was really nice, right? But depending on when you were in or out of the market, you could have gone down. But if you're buy and hold, if your portfolio is a buy and hold, then you haven't made any money in 2 years. Okay, so it's just kind of interesting where the market is right now. And I'm just kind of waiting. But this up curve here, this market going up is, that's why you need to be in the market. One possible alternative for you to do, this is really kind of makes my point for me is there are financial instruments, annuities, and certain kind of annuities that are geared towards investment performance that go up. They're actually tied to the market, so you can find some that are tied to the S&P 500. This is the SPY, so this is the S&P 500. I happen to own some of these myself. When you get into retirement, capital or close to retirement, capital preservation is much more important than making a big gain. You can't afford to lose money and have 2 years, right? 2 years and if you're taking income out over the last 2 years, you've been taking money out of your retirement funds to live on, and the rest of your money is exactly where it was 2 years ago, then that means you're down pretty significantly because you've been taking money out. So please contact me. I can help you figure this out. We can talk about your options. But in my annuity, if I was in this annuity in 21, it would have gone up and made a really significant gain. Now, you give up some of the upside in annuity to protect you on the downside. So maybe, this is just an example, maybe the annuity that you're in gives you 60% of the gain. Okay, and what's that? That's $60. So that, say 15%, say the market went up 15%, and you get 50% of the gain. So you get 7 or 8% gain during this up market. But then the market goes down, and in a down market, the floor, the most you can lose is 0. So you give up some of the upside to protect you on the downside. And so during this down market, you would be just flat. And actually, my annuity in 2022, as this market went down, my annuity was flat. I didn't lose any money. So actually, my annuity for this year so far has a positive return. If it keeps going, I'll have a positive return. So anyway, there are some options. Thank you for joining my podcast. This is for educational purposes only. Have a great day, and please watch my podcast. Thank you.